the excavation team spotted a pipe leading into the ground in the middle of a dense forest. It was pretty surprising because they were standing on an old, dead volcano that had been completely covered by trees, plants, and grass. To see inside the pipe, they decided to send in a night vision camera. Once the camera went in, it captured footage of a massive tunnel after descending about 30 meters. It was March 7, 2018, and the excavation team was about to see something incredible 30 meters underground near the city of Lubisz in southern Poland. Welcome once again to a WWII TV video. When the camera panned inside the tunnel, they were shocked to see a set of railroad tracks. While they were still trying to figure out what tracks were doing there, a minecart parked in the distance grabbed their attention. When local authorities heard about it, they brought a map of a tunnel that had been lost since World War II. It turned out this tunnel was built nearly 80 years ago during World War II, and local authorities had been searching for it for years. The entrance had been sealed with heavy rocks, and years of dirt and vegetation had erased any sign of it. But inside, the tunnel matched the one on the map exactly. Seeing the tracks and the minecart, it looked like this was used for storing supplies during World War II. Most of the iron equipment in the tunnel had rusted. Shovels, drill bits, and pickaxes were found in the same condition as Nazi soldiers had left them 80 years ago. During World War II, countries like Nazi Germany and Japan were fighting nations like the United States and Britain. During that time, Hitler's army built thousands of underground bunkers. Hitler may have started it, but Allied forces later began using underground tunnels and bunkers too. Bunkers had major strategic importance in World War II and were used for both defense and offense. Sometimes their job was to protect against enemy attacks, and other times they were used to launch attacks on the enemy. These bunkers protected soldiers from enemy airstrikes and artillery shells and gave them a secure base. Defensive bunkers on the front lines were designed to stop enemy attacks, like Germany's Atlantic Wall, which was a strong barrier against Allied assaults. At the same time, some bunkers were used for planning, where commanders secretly managed operations. So many underground bunkers and war rooms were built during World War II that counting them today is still impossible, because thousands remain buried underground. It's said that the Allied and Axis powers spent so much on underground bunkers that it caused a global shortage of iron and cement. According to one estimate, building all those bunkers cost roughly $500 billion to $1 trillion in today's money. To put that in perspective, the US spent $300 million per day during its 20-year war in Afghanistan, while bunker construction during World War II cost $460 million per day. And that's just the construction cost. Estimating the expense of manpower, logistics, and ammunition in World War II is nearly impossible. Let's dive into the bitter memories of history and learn about a few bunkers. The Atlantic Wall was a massive coastal defense system built by Nazi Germany during World War II. It stretched to 1,400 miles, or 3,800 kilometers, along Europe's coastline to defend against Allied attacks from the sea. Built between 1940 and 1944, this system included thousands of bunkers, ammunition depots, and fortresses. At that time, Hitler also occupied many parts of France. Part of the Atlantic Wall extended into Normandy in northern France, where artillery batteries like Longues-sur-Mer were installed. These bunkers were designed to withstand heavy bombardment and provide defensive fire during attacks. As for Norway, its southern part could be used to block Allied forces coming from the North Atlantic Ocean. That's why Hitler also built sections of the Atlantic Wall there. Fortresses like Kristiansand protected naval routes. In addition, the Netherlands was also under Nazi control, and thousands of bunkers were built along the North Atlantic coast. The entire Atlantic Wall, including underground bunkers, depots, tunnels, artillery battery, and forts, was built by the company of a German engineer named Fritz Todt. 260,000 workers, most of them prisoners, were forced to build all these structures in just 2 to 4 years. Even today, some parts of the Atlantic Wall exist as historical monuments, reminding us of the engineering and expense of World War II. When Hitler built the Atlantic Wall, the Allied powers had no idea how much trouble they would face later. Then, in 1942, An incident opened the eyes of the United States and Britain. Canadian forces, part of the Allied powers, planned an attack on the Dieppe area of France, now remembered as the Dieppe Raid. The goal was to understand how Hitler's Atlantic Wall actually worked. The strong concrete bunkers caused the Allied attack to fail badly. Allied troops trying to land on the coastline were caught in powerful crossfire from Nazi Germany. This was a huge shock for the Allied forces because they didn't expect the Atlantic Wall to be that strong. Of the 6,000 Allied soldiers in that mission, 3,600 were either killed or captured by the Nazis. After Dieppe, the Allied forces realized that if they wanted to successfully attack Hitler's regime, they would have to invest heavily in bunkers and defense systems too. So the United Kingdom, France, the Soviet Union, and Canada also spent heavily on bunker and tunnel construction. The Churchill War Rooms were an underground complex built in London. This was British Prime Minister Winston Churchill's headquarters during World War II. The complex was specifically designed to be safe from Nazi Germany's airstrikes. France's Maginot Line, built after World War I, also got new underground bunkers and tunnels. France believed this system would protect them. But in World War II, Germany bypassed the Maginot Line and captured France through Belgium. On the other side of the world, in Japan, which was supporting Hitler in World War II, hundreds of underground bunkers were also dug. An entire network was built underground, including hidden artillery positions, storage rooms, and living quarters. These tunnels were used for surprise attacks during Allied assaults. The bunkers and tunnels on Okinawa were even larger and more complex, where thousands of Japanese soldiers stayed positioned for defense and resistance. This defense system was designed to delay Allied invasions and kill as many troops as possible. The engineering of the bunkers built by all countries during World War II is nothing short of a miracle. It was wartime, with shortages of everything. And on top of those challenges, there was the constant threat of airstrikes. On top of that, workers even died from suffocation during underground tunnel construction. But despite all these challenges, thousands of bunkers were not only built, but many of them still remain hidden underground in the same condition today, especially those built in Axis power countries. Because after World War II, when their rule ended there, soldiers either sealed the bunker entrances and fled, or died inside them. So no one ever knew which bunker was built at which location. There was one way to find the locations of all these bunkers and tunnels, and that was through the secret documents held by Hitler's government. But those were either burned or hidden in places known only to the person who hid them. And these bunkers were specially camouflaged, built into the natural terrain so no one would know a military bunker was there. That's why these bunkers stayed hidden after the war. Special ventilation systems were built for underground bunkers that pulled fresh air inside and expelled carbon dioxide. Nazi leader Adolf Hitler used several bunkers during his reign. His famous bunkers included the Eagle's Nest, also called the Kelstein House. It was built in the Obersalzberg area of Germany at an elevation of 6,000 feet for secret meetings of the Nazi leadership and for relaxation. Using concrete and granite, it was built to be bomb-proof. Hitler's second famous bunker was the Führerbunker in Berlin. Built in 1944, this wasn't just a bunker but an entire headquarters. The bunker was designed to be safe from Allied bombings and artillery. Hitler spent his final days here and took his own life here on April 30, 1945. Today, no part of this bunker is visible on the surface, but this site remains a dark chapter of World War II history. Now let's talk about a bunker of Hitler's where he spent the most days of the war. The vault's Lair was less of a bunker and more of a fortress, located in a forest in northern Germany. Inside were Hitler's bedroom and offices surrounding it. Its concrete roof was built nearly 7 meters thick. A thick layer of gravel over the entire fortress-like bunker protected it from airstrikes and bombing. A thick steel door also protected against chemical attacks. Looking like an Egyptian tomb, this bunker was so strong that it's still impossible to destroy today. And security was so tight that not a single window was built in it. A special ventilation system was installed here that circulated fresh air throughout the bunker. Despite all this security, the bunker was made invisible in the forest landscape. Soil was placed on its roof and the same trees and plants that grew in the surrounding forest were planted on top. Because of this, when an aircraft flew overhead, there was no suspicion that Hitler's headquarters was below. The Allied powers, the US, UK, Canada, and other forces, spent years planning to break through Nazi Germany's strong defensive bunkers and the Atlantic Wall. To counter Hitler's Atlantic Wall, more than 156,000 troops, 5,000 ships, and 11,000 aircraft were used. It was June 6, 1944, remembered as D-Day. On that day, Germany faced the Allied forces with the bunkers and artillery of the Atlantic Wall, but their planning and resources weren't effective enough. Allied airstrikes and paratroopers heavily countered German communication and defenses. The Allied forces suffered heavy losses at first, but eventually they succeeded in breaking Nazi Germany's control over Europe. Hope you all fully like and share this Raid TV video too. Thanks a lot for your loving comment. See you in the next amazing video.